All right, so some of you out there might have already realized that you want a reMarkable tablet. But do you go for the reMarkable 2 or the reMarkable Paper Pro? Because honestly, there's a pretty big price difference between the two of these. And you might want to save some cash and go with the reMarkable 2, but are the new features and the new design of the reMarkable Paper Pro worth that extra money? Well, we're going to find out, and we're going to try and discuss every single difference between these two devices. So I'm going to set both of their styluses off to the side for now. And first things first, I'm just going to talk about the build of both of these. And they are both very well made. They feel really solid. There's aluminum on the reMarkable 2 here and matte glass back to it as well. Glass in the front. There's aluminum strip here. It feels really, really premium. It's got curved edges, so very comfortable to hold in your hand. And the corners are rounded nice. The thickness as well is just incredible to hold. This has always been a tablet that I've regarded as on par with build quality of Apple, if not even better in some ways. I don't know if any other e-ink company has matched reMarkable's build quality. So when it comes to the reMarkable Paper Pro, it's very similar here as well. Except they did change a lot of the process of the design here. They made the entire back aluminum, and it goes along the sides as well. So basically, it's like an aluminum bucket that everything else sits in, including the screen here, which is a textured glass screen, which gives the right writing feel. They have these ridges on the side to kind of simulate a stack of paper. I don't know if it quite gives that effect, but it does make it really easy to grip. It's not quite as comfortable though on the sides as the reMarkable 2 in my opinion, but it's not like it's uncomfortable or anything like that. And it is slightly thicker. So it's not significantly thicker or anything, but the reMarkable 2 is 4.7 millimeters, where the reMarkable Paper Pro is 5.1 millimeters. Which that means this is the same thickness as the M4 13-inch iPad Pro, which is still pretty nuts that the iPads are that thin as well. Both of them have rubber feet in all four corners. The reMarkable 2s are much smaller and harder to see, but they are there, where on the Paper Pro they stand out significantly. But I think they both add the appropriate amount of grip on the table, and I don't think either one is better than the other. They work for their size devices. The reMarkable 2 has smart pin connectors right here on the side, where the Paper Pro has it right here on the back. Both of those are used for tight folio cases that these can both support. Obviously, the keyboard is bigger and more full size for the Paper Pro, and a bit more compact for the reMarkable 2, just simply because of the size. I don't have either of those though, because I never really found myself wanting to type on these reMarkable tablets, but they are options if you're one. And if you're curious about the weight at all, the reMarkable 2 is definitely the lighter out of the two of them, which does make sense. It's smaller and has a smaller battery. So it comes in at 398 grams, and the Paper Pro comes in at 527. So yeah, it's pretty significantly heavier. It's thicker, bigger battery, has a front light in it. It just has a lot more things going on as far as what gives it weight. So yeah, it's heavier, it's bigger, but not so much so that I think it's uncomfortable or changes how you can use the device and where you can bring it for most of the time. And as far as aesthetics and just which one I think looks like it's better made and more appealing to me, I like the Paper Pro better. As far as how it's built, I don't exactly like the dual tone of the side strip right here. I think it makes it stand out even more how chunky this side bezel is, and I kind of wish it just kept it the same color. I get that they're kind of keeping that aluminum wrapped all around the edge, and it doesn't look bad. I just like this more uniform look on the Paper Pro, just having the one bigger chin here. And I think the aluminum back with the reMarkable etched in like that, and even how the pads are in the back here, I think it just looks a little bit nicer and a little bit more modern and updated to me. But I do like the weight and the thinness of the reMarkable 2 even more so. So I'm going to kind of give them a draw here as far as design and build quality. And for the styluses for both of them, the tips are pretty different here. As you can see, the reMarkable 2 uses the Wacom standard, where the Paper Pro uses its own proprietary standard, which is based off the USI standard. So they went for a completely different kind of tip. And honestly, the feeling on the screen are pretty different between these two. So if you had the reMarkable 2 and you want to upgrade to the Paper Pro and you're assuming the feelings are going to be identical, you're wrong. For example, my dad, who uses the reMarkable 2 every day, when he used the Paper Pro, he actually had a hard time writing as clear and as accurate as he does on the reMarkable 2 because he's so used to how the reMarkable 2 interprets his handwriting, and it just felt weird even from the reMarkable Paper Pro. So there will be an adjustment period. I don't think it's worse, but we'll talk about writing feel even more later on in this video. The texturing on the outside of the styluses are very, very similar. The coloring is almost identical. The erasers work in the same fashion. Just a slight design change where the reMarkable brand is on the pen, and this one feeling heavier because it's battery powered. But they're both very comfortable to hold. It's not like it's 3 times as heavy or anything like that. All right, next we're gonna talk about the displays. And I don't know how well it's gonna come across on camera, so I'll try to use some other shots as well to see if I can show this even better. But the whiteness of the reMarkable Paper Pro is definitely less than the reMarkable 2. It is a whiter screen, and this one is slightly more gray. It's not bad. I've seen regular monochromatic screens even more gray than this, and this actually has color. It's not as grayed out as the Kaleido 3 screens tend to be, but it's something you should still know as a downside of this reMarkable Paper Pro. It's not quite as contrasty and pure white as the reMarkable 2. And obviously the size of the screens are different as well. This is a 10.2 inch screen, where this is an 11.8 inch screen. The screen is almost the size of this tablet, but all screen, if you take away this black border right here, which that is pretty impressive. And it's a nice amount of screen space. I think it's a good balance of not being huge, like a 13-inch display would be, where that really is not something you'd be taking around with you very often. It's going to be pretty stationary, or at least not quite as convenient to travel with. But this is still a really good option, and it's kind of in that middle ground. It's kind of the size iPad I wish Apple would make, to be honest, like around a 12-inch screen, where it's right between that 11-inch and the 13-inch size. So I got no complaints with the size here. It's really nice to write on for that. But there is something about this slightly smaller screen that is nice too, and it is really portable and very much able to go anywhere you need to go. And because of how thin it is too, it's definitely more favorable as far as portability. As far as how the screen refreshes, they're both pretty similar. I mean, as you can see from even just scrolling here, they do it very similarly, although I do see the reMarkable 2 lagging a little bit more behind, but it's not a world of a difference. But when you start to add things like color on the screen, let's just do a yellow highlighter right across the screen here. You'll see it kind of flashes that color into existence to make it look better and more accurate. And when you scroll with that, it takes much longer to refresh and look nice. And it does a lot of flashing. And that might be pretty distracting for some people. It may not bother you at all, but just warning you, that's what it looks like anytime there's color on the screen. It has to flash like that if you change the screen often, and especially if that's something you want on every single page, you want color, well, it's gonna do that every time you turn a page then. So it's not automatically a deal breaker. I've kind of gotten used to it, but it is something to be aware of. Another win for the reMarkable Paper Pro is they actually got the pen to ink distance even smaller. So that means the gap in the screen here is more minor. Now, it's not like the one on the reMarkable 2 was bad by any means. In fact, I can hardly see it, but this one is slightly better. And that's great. I mean, I'm all for that, making it even more seamless and flush, but it's really only something you're gonna see when they're side by side, so it's not really a big difference at the end of the day. And the last main difference that you'll see visually with the screen here, besides this having color, is the front light. As you can see, this has that little menu, but no front light there. So you can turn it on, and that's it on. Now, you can't really notice it if any kind of lights are on the device, but when it is dark and you want to still read or write on this device, you can still do that thanks to the front light. I still think it's a great thing to have It's not for lighting up your screen during the day at all, so that's why I tend to keep it off and save some battery. But it is for at night when you just need that reading light on, and it does a great job at that. You can see when it's much darker out, this front light is way more obvious, and this is even pitch black, but you can totally still see and read everything you're doing on the reMarkable Paper Pro, where I'm already struggling to see things on the reMarkable 2. And in the pitch black environment, there's no way you're getting anything done on the reMarkable 2, but on the Paper Pro, you have no problem. So those are the screen differences between these two devices. So I'm going to give the win to the reMarkable Paper Pro for this one, because even though it's not quite as white as the reMarkable 2, I think overall it has a better screen. And yeah, the colors can kind of flash on it, but if you just use the colors as like more of highlighting and you're not constantly writing in them, it's still nice to have when you want it, and they look pretty good. And then as far as software, both of these tablets have virtually identical settings and software. And if you want to know more in depth with the reMarkable Paper Pro software, which is basically the same as the reMarkable 2's, I made a full review of the reMarkable Paper Pro, and I went in depth with all the different settings that it has. So if you're curious about any of those, check out that video linked below. The only real difference is that when you go into the pen tool, it actually has color options you can pick from right there as well. And same with the highlighter as well here, where this one just has some colors that would show up in the companion app, or you could just do gray. And also the pens in here would have a gray option that would show up in the app, not on the actual tablet itself. My favorite pen tool though on both of them is the mechanical pencil. And the reMarkable Paper Pro does have the shader tool, which basically just lets you layer colors on top of each other and kind of paint them a little bit. And obviously, because there's no color here, it was not something that the reMarkable 2 could do. Although one software feature that I do think is kind of nice about the reMarkable Paper Pro is because this stylus is now battery powered, it knows when it's attached or not. So if I take this off, it actually takes it right out of sleep mode, ready to go, where that is not something that the reMarkable 2 would do at all. And as far as the chips in both of these, the performance is better on the reMarkable Paper Pro. It's now a quad-core processor with 2 GB of RAM and much more storage. As you can see, the reMarkable Paper Pro has actually 64 GB of storage, which actually only translates to about 46 available. So the rest must be all used for system memory. And the reMarkable 2 only has 8 GB of RAM. So that's a pretty significant storage increase between these two. But this is something my dad uses every single day, and he only used 0.64 gigabytes so far. So while yes, it's nice to have more wiggle room and better longevity with the reMarkable Paper Pro here, this isn't an immediate turnoff, and I think you should consider all the other factors. This should not be the thing making your decision, but it is nice that there is more here. So with that being said, the processor, the storage, the RAM is all better on the reMarkable Paper Pro, but it is still far from cutting edge considering how much these tablets cost, or especially if you start to compare it to any modern Android tablet or any iPad. It's not even close to as fast as them. But that's just the nature of e-ink, and when you're used to the e-ink world, these aren't that crazy low of specs. The Penstar tablet that I showed on this channel as well has basically the same specs as the reMarkable Paper Pro, so they're even better than the reMarkable 2, and a lot of them are around that. But reMarkables also have their own custom Linux-based software, which is very easy to run on these devices and very, very minimal, so it doesn't even require as much processing power to run the operating system. And as far as the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth speed, they are both the same on both these devices, and neither of them support directly importing a file through a USB drive. You have to use their app or some kind of Wi-Fi transfer in order to get files onto this device and off of this device. But they do now support a bunch of different cloud services, which is nice. All right, so now let's actually talk about the stylus and the writing feel and experience here. They both give you the same tools here, but the actual feeling of the pen to screen is pretty different. The reMarkable 2 doesn't feel quite as textured. Feels a lot like a mechanical pencil, where there's not quite as much drag. It goes a little bit smoother than a normal pencil, but it still kind of has that pencil resistance on the page. And these tips definitely wear much quicker on the reMarkable 2 than the reMarkable Paper Pro, so just keep that in mind. You will have to buy more quicker with this stylus. And then on the reMarkable 2, this feels like a pencil on a piece of paper for sure. So less like a mechanical pencil, still a little bit like it, but more like a regular pencil on this piece of paper. And yeah, if you just saw that, the magnets on the new Paper Pro are crazy strong. Like, I set this pen next to the tablet and it pulls it right to it. Like, here it is right here, and if I just tap it a little bit closer, where if I do the same thing here, I have to get it pretty much right next to it to really do anything. So it's still good magnets, but these ones hold it on way stronger. I think part of that is because of the flat side as well. It makes more surface area for the magnets to connect. But yeah, having the stylus charge has not really been an issue for me. I've never been low on battery while using it. I'm sure it does put more drain on the battery. How much, I can't really say. They both seem to last around the 1 to 2 week time frame because this has a much larger battery in it already. But if you use the front light a lot, it will drain the battery even more. So just keep that in mind. This can be even worse than the reMarkable 2. It just depends on how you're using it. But if you think you're getting a battery upgrade for the bigger size, not really. It's about the same as the reMarkable 2. So here's how each of these styluses sound while writing. So definitely more pencil-like scratching noises when using the reMarkable Paper Pro. But there's also a lot more of the tapping sounds, because this is a much harder plastic tip on the stylus, and the screen is even harder as well. So when on the reMarkable 2, the taps are a little bit more muted, but it's not significantly different. Overall, the reMarkable 2 just makes less noise. And some of you may say, why in the world are you even comparing the sound of how they write? And it seems kind of silly in some ways, but in other ways, it's kind of nice to know the sound you're gonna have. Because if it's really loud and you're in really quiet environments all the time, well, just know that people are probably going to hear you scribbling on your tablet. And if that's fine with you, and if you like this satisfying sound of the reMarkable Paper Pro, because it is a very satisfying sound, then that's great. But if you kind of want something a little bit more subtle and not quite as noisy, then you might prefer how the sound of the reMarkable 2 actually is. Moving on to more about the writing feel here. As you can see, the accuracy is pretty good on both of them. I'm not quite as used to the feeling of the reMarkable 2, so I think it's why my handwriting looks even worse here. However, they're both really good about accurately interpreting your handwriting and make it look how you are writing it. And that is very good between both of these. However, I will say when you do things besides handwriting on the reMarkable Paper Pro, the stylus technology begins to show more of its weaknesses. For example, if I want to do more drawing and making shapes and sketches, this is not going to be quite as good as the reMarkable 2. Here's some vertical lines here. Here's a circular shape. Here's a more rectangular shape. So if you look at the reMarkable Paper Pro here, yeah, these lines aren't perfectly straight, and reMarkable actually has a function to perfect a straight line and make it look really perfectly straight. So if all you're doing is drawing lines, then this stylus technology isn't a bad thing because they have a software fix for that. But they don't do perfect shapes like Apple, where drawing a circle or a square will perfect it at all. So if you don't have the straight lines perfected, you can see there's a lot more wobbles and inaccuracies when I'm doing those diagonal lines. And yeah, these ones aren't perfectly straight either, but that's because I just didn't draw a perfectly straight line. There's not as many tiny little wobbles in the middle where that's not actually me doing it. That's a stylus not picking it up properly. And same with the circle here. You can see some of those wobbles in the circle where, yeah, this circle is not great or perfectly made, but at least you don't see those wobbles in it. Although it did seem to do a really good job on this rectangular shape. They both seem pretty similar to me. So I'm going to give the stylus category another draw here, mostly because I actually have grown very fond of how the feeling is on the reMarkable Paper Pro. So I actually prefer that now. But I do think the Wacom EMR standard is more accurate than their proprietary standard they're using here. Although the latency is actually better on the Paper Pro, but not noticeably better. And if the accuracy is still a little bit worse, then I'd actually rather them slow it down and make it just as accurate as the Wacom EMR standard. All right, so which one gets the best win for value? I don't want to just say price in general, because obviously the cheaper model is going to be better for price. But what's the best value? I'm actually going to give it to the reMarkable 2. The reMarkable Paper Pro is like twice as expensive as the reMarkable 2, with only like 5% more features. Now, this bigger screen may just be the reason you need to upgrade. And if that's the case, well, then you already know which one you want. But as far as just what the tablet can actually do, this does 95% of what this tablet does. And for me, I only use color to just kind of highlight and make something in particular stand out. I'm not viewing comic books on this device. I'm not doing things like that. And if you are, well, then that color might be a bigger factor for you. But honestly, this has pretty terrible support for comic books and ebooks and stuff like that. Anyway, you basically get EPUB and PDF. That's about it. So it has to be in one of those standards. So I wish they would just support more file types, and then that would be more compelling for me. And also with this larger screen, I wish they would do things like enable a split screen view, so you can have a PDF and a Notes app open side by side, taking advantage of this really nice big display. But they don't. So yeah, you get more space per note, but you can easily scroll on the reMarkable 2 and kind of get that space back. So I don't see a huge advantage to the larger screen on this particular device. And for $300 for the base device itself, this is pretty stinking awesome. Honestly, that might be the best part to come out of the reMarkable event, is that they lowered the price of the reMarkable 2. It is still a really good tablet, and it could still last you years if you take care of it well. So I think if you're looking for a reMarkable tablet that can do everything you need it to do and be very portable, very light, and a lot more affordable, reMarkable 2 is your tablet. If you're wanting the best of the best, the biggest screen and color for sure, well then this is the choice for you. So hopefully that makes your decision very clear between these two devices. They're both going to be enjoyable and nice, and especially if you're not used to any e-ink tablet, they're a great introduction to this kind of device. Personally, I still love the software of Supernote more so than the software of reMarkable, and I will have a reMarkable versus Supernote video coming soon. I was kind of hoping to see if I could wait for the new Supernote tablet to come out to kind of compare that to the new reMarkable as a bit more of a fair comparison. But I might just make it with the Supernote I have right now. But let me know down in the comments below if you'd rather me do that with the Nomad that I have currently, or if you want me to wait for the new A5X2 Supernote coming out hopefully by the end of this year or early next year. If you want to comment below your specific scenario that you want to use one of these devices for and ask my opinion on which one you should get, definitely do that. I will be replying to all your comments as best I can and as fast as I can. And I love answering your questions about these devices. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and comment below what you'd rather me compare the reMarkable Paper Pro to next. And of course, subscribe. My goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of the year here. and it's approaching faster than ever. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, go right ahead, subscribe. Give me a chance to show you why this channel is worth the subscription, and stick around for a whole bunch of iPad content, e-ink tablet content, even some iPhone and Apple Watch stuff here and there. And if there's anything you're wanting me to review or look at, comment that down below, and if I can get my hands on it, I will. If you love the new studio setup that I have here and you're looking to make something similar for yourself, all the gear I use in this is gonna be linked in the description down below. And if you're wanting a full studio tour, let me know that as well, and I can work on a video for that. Anyway guys, thank you for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day.